Good morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Ricker. I'm an environmental educator for New York City parks here in the Greenbelt. And as we are walking along the Nature Center trail that you can start just back here at 700 Rockland Avenue, which is the Greenbelt Nature Center on the corner of Brielle and Rockland. And so as we're heading up the trail, I see one of our other educators who's going to take us on this month's live Trail of the Month.
Hi guys, my name is Karen. I'm also an educator here. And today we have my pup, Opie, joining us at work. Opie, say hi. And Opie is coming on a hike with me today. And we're going to talk a little bit about the rules for having our dogs in parks with us, in New York City parks. So here in the Greenbelt, we are actually a forever wild site. So one of the biggest rules here, and I'm sure a lot of people are not going to be super happy about it, but we must keep our dogs on a leash here in the Greenbelt. It is a wildlife preserve, so it would be really damaging to our plants and our wildlife to have our dogs off leash. I know with my dog, you can see he's got a nice big thick leash. He likes to chew on his leash, and if he were ever to get off the leash, he might chase a deer or a squirrel, and that wouldn't be good for him or for the animals. So another thing you can do if you're not sure of what your park's rules are is you can go to nycparks.org, I think.
G-O-V.
Sorry, and you can look up dogs in parks, and that will give you all of the rules for all of the parks. And you can see Opie's exploring.
Awesome. So for those of you who are just joining us, I see that we have 5 folks on.
Ooh, hi.
Welcome to Greenbelt at Home's virtual Trail of the Month. Today we are with Karen Ruse going up the Nature Center Trail with our canine friend Opie and learning a little bit about how to properly bring your dog, your 4-legged pet, into New York City parks so that they can have a good time, you can have a good time, other visitors and wildlife can also enjoy all of the same space.
So there are some parks where you can have your dog off leash. Most of them are from before 9 a.m. in the morning till after 9 at night until the park closes. A lot of times people don't realize that it's not every park that's an off leash. So again, go to our website and check it out. You can look at all 5 boroughs and which parks allow off leash times.
So Karen, I noticed that you're carrying a bag and it looks like there's something in that bag. Can you tell us what's going on?
I think you all know what's in the bag. So before we started, Opie did what dogs do, and I picked it up. So even in our wooded areas here, especially in our wooded areas here, we need to pick up our waste. All right, it can get into our waterways. It can be contaminated with all sorts of things. So it's really important to pick up our dog's waste, and not only pick it up, but put it in a garbage bag. So what happens, we notice a lot, is that people will pick up their poop and leave it on the side of the trail. And there is really nobody coming out here to pick that up. So that really doesn't make much sense to do that. And you can see I've been carrying this for a while. So I'm going to be a responsible dog owner and pick up the waste and bring it out of the park.
Awesome. So we all know when we're bringing our dogs into New York City parks or other public lands, like Karen said, we're going to pack it in and pack it out. So most of our trailheads should have receptacles. So even though you might have to take your dog's poop with you for a 4 or 5 mile trek, plan ahead and prepare so that you can safely and hygienically carry your dog's dookie.
Another thing we want to be aware of when we're taking our dogs into our wooded areas is that there are ticks out here. So it's a concern for not just us, but our 4-legged friends as well. Another reason to have your dog on a leash and not have them running through the vegetation out in the park. So unlike humans, dogs do get the opportunity to have a Lyme's vaccination, which we don't. But there are other tick-borne illnesses that they could potentially pick up. So we need to try as best we can to keep them out of the grasses and out of plant life, 'cause that's where they'll pick up ticks most often. So Opie's taking a little bit of a break, I think.
So when we go out, Karen, we bring our backpack, we have rain gear, we have snacks, we have everything that we need in order to plan ahead and prepare, like in Leave No Trace. So if I'm maybe I'm a person new to hiking and new to bringing my dog on hikes, what are some things I should take into consideration when planning ahead?
Well, as we said, definitely make sure that you have your bags to pick up the dog waste. And I don't know if you see it on my backpack.
Yep, on that side.
Oh, sorry. A little portable bowl. So if we're hiking pretty far and we get hot, just like I want to have some water, my dog is going to need water as well. Even on a day like today where it's not too hot, you need to have water, especially if you're going long distances. So something like that, I got that for free, I think from an insurance company, but you can buy these in any pet store pretty much. Another thing that you want to be prepared for is how far you're hiking. So my dog's pretty healthy and he's really young. So if I were to take him on a 6 or 7 mile hike, he'd probably out hike me. But sometimes we have dogs that are smaller or maybe not as healthy or not as young. And we have to take that into consideration when we're taking our dog out to the trails, right? They might not be able to go as far as we can. So we don't want to exhaust them, especially the older guys.
Great. So we had some new folks join us. So again, if you are just joining us, this is Greenbelt at Home's virtual trail of the month with environmental educator Karen Ruse and Opie. And we are learning the important techniques and etiquette to bringing our four-legged friends out into New York City parks. So we've already discussed picking up your dog's poop and packing it out, planning ahead and preparing so that you and your dog can have a safe time outside. And we're going to talk a little bit about being considerate of other visitors. So, Karen, how do we as hikers with dogs, how are we considerate of other guests? What can we do to make sure we're showing the most amount of etiquette and respect to other users?
So, again, this comes back to our leash laws. While I have my dog on a leash, I have him under control. He's not running and chasing wildlife, and he's not running up to other visitors to the park. Not everybody is super comfortable with dogs, so we have to take that into consideration, that other people might be afraid, even if your dog is a lovely dog. Have to be considerate of other people's dogs as well. So your dog might be friendly, another dog may not, so be aware of that as well. And if you see people coming down the trail, you could just move to the side. Not too far off the trail. Again, we don't want to have ticks, but you can move off to the side and make sure you have your dog under control. We don't want people getting jumped on or anything like that, because maybe your dog is too big for you to handle or a little bit too wild. So a well-behaved dog is one thing, but keeping them also in control and courteous of other people and maybe their fears is really important as well.
Great. And I think what we should also bring up is the idea of social distancing, right? So currently we're living in a world where when visitors come out to the park, we're asking them to stay 6 feet apart. And that could be a little bit of a challenge for a dog who doesn't understand, right? 6 feet or pandemic. So how should we socially distance our dogs?
A leash has to be at least 6 feet long. So that's one way you can tell if you're far enough apart. Again, if the dog's not on a leash, you have no control over that, and you might have to get close to somebody else if your dog goes up to them. So leash law is really important.
Right. So as we continue to head up the Nature Center Trail, which you can start at 700 Rockland Avenue at our Greenbelt Nature Center, and you can take this little under a mile loop, which is relatively flat, easily accessible to everyone. And are companions. So for those of you joining us, again, we are on our virtual Greenbelt at Home Trail of the Month with Karen Ruse, learning techniques to manage our impacts and enjoy the outdoors with our dogs.
So we do have a few of these little brochures if anybody wants to pick one up at our Greenbelt Nature Center, which you can probably find. We can leave them outside for now because our buildings are closed. But again, you can go to the New York City Parks website and get the laws for every park in New York City. Just go to Dogs in NYC Parks. Okay, another thing that we have to remember is our dogs, to be in our parks, need to be licensed and have rabies vaccination. And if you can see, I have his collar on him. It's really a good idea to also have a collar with his information. Well, we don't want to give out my phone number, but I also have a reflective tag on there in case he does get off leash for some reason. And I also have his rabies tag on there, so in case a PEP officer or somebody asks, I can show them that I have proof that he has his rabies vaccination. Opie's being pretty calm today. I was hoping he'd do some jumps for us. But
So we also share our New York City parks with wildlife, right? So in Leave No Trace, we talk about minimizing and respecting wildlife by not visiting maybe during rearing season of young or breeding season, right? So as Karen mentioned earlier, the idea of having a leash, not only physically, but also having control over your dog, will assist in mitigating impacts on local wildlife. We, as environmental educators here in the Greenbelt, have seen unleashed dogs chasing deer. And unfortunately, because there are roads, right, wildlife and your pets can end up running out in traffic. So not only for the safety of wildlife, also for the safety of your dogs, other visitors, and people in automobiles driving on the outskirts of the park, make sure you're always controlling your pets.
right, because even though we seem like we're pretty deep into the woods, we're not far from Rockland Avenue, which is a pretty busy street. So if I were to let Opie off the leash and he saw a deer, he's got a pretty good hunting drive and he would take off after that deer. And again, we have seen people come in a few times who have lost sight of their dogs because they either got off leash chasing wildlife. Again, you can see this is a pretty good leash. He's not getting off of it. Or they just were off leash and kind of went their own way. Dogs can get lost just as easily as people. And we have 2,800 acres here, so you really don't want to lose your dog out in the forest.
So what are some of the benefits? We've talked about how to behave, how to control our animals in parks, on trails. What are some of the benefits for us and maybe our pets with spending time outside?
Outside? Well, it's good exercise, right? So again, Opie can go way farther than I ever can. So we can get some really good exercise. Some people like to run with their dogs, which is great too, as long as your dog can keep up. And it's a nice silent person or animal to walk with. So I actually feel a lot safer when I come into the park with my dog. I probably wouldn't come out by myself without another person or my dog. So it makes me a little bit more comfortable to know that he's with me.
Awesome. And they, of course, enjoy it. Right, Opie?
It's great exercise for him, too. He has a little bit of anxiety. He's a rescue dog. So bringing him out to explore and get some exercise helps to calm him down. Anybody who's seen my couch knows that my dog has a lot of anxiety. And this is really the only way I can tell. I can tell when we take him out for a nice long hike that he's calmer and happier. And then we're happier, and our couch is happier.
Cool. So again, if you're joining us for the first time, we are in the Greenbelt, very close to our trailhead at the entrance of 700 Rockland Avenue, which is at the corner of Rockland and Brielle. And we are with environmental educator Karen Ruse and her dog Opie as we are circumnavigating the nature trail, which is again a loop that's a little shorter than a mile, that's accessible to everyone, including our four-legged friends that we sometimes bring out with us. So I think we're coming to sort of the end of our hike. Are there any last minute things, Karen, that you would like to share with our friends tuning in?
Just let's be responsible pet owners and enjoy our outdoor space with them and keep them safe, keep us safe, and be respectful of other people coming to the park to enjoy.
Awesome. So thank you all for joining us for this month's Greenbelt at Home virtual trail of the month. If you're interested in other resources and virtual programs, please visit our website at sigreenbelt.org. And Karen and Opie will see you all soon. Have a great day.